Thanks, Acting Speaker, and it's great to rise and speak on the Regulatory Legislation Amendment Reform Bill 2026. And there's been some great contributions from members on our side. This bill is an important example of the ongoing work of government to ensure that our regulatory system remains obviously modern, effective and responsive to the needs of Victorians, notwithstanding some of the comments from the opposition. Of course, the reform does not often grab headlines, but it is essential to the everyday functioning of our economy and our democracy, and of course for the functioning of our communities. And the purpose of the bill is clear. It seeks to support efficient and effective regulation, streamlining some of the processes and reduces administrative burdens. It also promotes clarity and consistency in legislation, and it makes a range of technical updates that ensure our laws keep pace with modern expectations. Of course, the bill is about making sure the systems work better for businesses, for workers, for local government, and of course for the broader community. It takes when we talk about regulation, it shouldn't be framed as a choice between regulation and no regulation. It's a serious conversation about how government works in an effective democracy, and the real question is always about good regulation. And good regulation protects our consumers, it protects the environment, it supports our fair markets and fair competition, and good regulation ensures that the rules of our society work for the community as a whole, not just those with the loudest voices and the ones with the most resources. And of course the bill reflects that philosophy. One of the important but could be easily overlooked aspects of legislation reform is ensuring that the language of our laws reflects our modern standards. Of course, this bill makes sensible updates to gendered language in our legislation to ensure our laws reflect the inclusive language used across our community today. And of course, Acting Speaker, I suspect there will be some who will be tempted to turn even this modest and sensible reform into some kind of cultural war, and we have seen that before, but the reality is far less dramatic. So we've already had a perfect example in this very chamber in regard to gendered language, and for many years members in this place were accustomed to saying Mr Speaker, and when the current Speaker took on the role, some members began using Madam Speaker. But full credit is due to the current Speaker, not the Acting Speaker in the chair at the moment, but the current Speaker. She made it clear that the title simply only needs to be Speaker. And of course that's short, clear and to the point, and no gendered titles, just Speaker. And do you know what happened? Civilisation did not collapse because the Speaker decided upon that. And of course the Earth's still spinning and Parliament kept functioning, and it turns out it is not that difficult to adjust language in a way that makes our institutions more inclusive and equitable, and these reforms in this bill reflect that same principle, and it modernises the language so that our legislation reflects the society it governs. Of course, the bill also supports productivity and economic growth by ensuring that Victoria's regulatory framework remains clear, consistent and efficient. And the amendments simply bring our legislation into line with the latest national competition policy arrangements and helps ensure our regulatory system continues to support a strong economy and a better living standard for Victorians. Of course, currently the Victorian unemployment rate sits at around 4.2%. Of course, when those in opposition were last in government, the unemployment rate was 6.7%. And of course, I shared that comparison online recently, and I must admit it seemed to strike a bit of a nerve in some quarters. The member for Ovens Valley seemed interested. I'm honoured that he follows the great progress being delivered in Melton so closely. I'm very honoured that he actually made a comment on my Facebook post, so it was really great to see that he's taking an interest in Melton and my Facebook page, so I commend him for that. But of course, it's time and time again that it's Labor governments that invest in our people and we support jobs and strengthen the economy as we're doing at the moment. And part of that success comes from getting the balance right, supporting business growth while ensuring that the regulatory framework protects workers, consumers and communities. And of course, Melton has had the highest growth of business in the last 5 years than anywhere else in the country, and Wyndham comes in second. So the West is leading the way, because the West is the best, of course. And I'm pleased that the member for Morwell said that small business is the backbone of electorates, and I have to agree with him, which would be a first. But I do agree with him on that statement. And as I say, and I'll repeat it, but Melton is the highest growth in business in the last 5 years of anywhere else in the country, and Wyndham are coming a close second. So again, I'll repeat it, the West is the best and leading the way. And it's great to see that small business is coming into Melton, and the diversity of small business is amazing. I commend those business owners and for having a go and delivering that, and it's great to see that diversity and that growth in Melton. And again, going forward with the growth in population and people coming in and buying into Melton and living in Melton, we'll just see that grow even further. Of course, this bill is about reducing red tape. It's not about abandoning standards or weakening protections. It's about making processes simpler, faster and more efficient, so the system works the way it should. And of course, for our builders and for Victorians trying to enter into the housing market, particularly first home buyers, these kinds of improvements can make a real difference. Of course, when approvals are unnecessarily slow and processes become overly complicated, the costs do not disappear and they are passed on to the people trying to build or buy a home. And that's why we've made many reforms like these matters in this bill. And of course, it helps remove those unnecessary delays and allows builders to get on with the job of delivering more homes for Victorian families. And of course, we've been very clear about the need to increase housing supply. It's so important right across Victoria in different ways, increasing that housing supply, whether that be in the outer areas like my electorate or inner city areas, or even that middle ring of suburbs, and the differences that we want to deliver in regard to housing is so important. And the more housing that we can build, the more competitive it can be, the better the prices will be. And that's what this reform, and the whip is looking at me and I'm not sure whether I've got to finish my contribution. So this bill is a really important bill, and I commend the bill to the House. Sorry about that.